right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in again into another episode of Zoom into Magic with me, Akshay. And my guest for today's episode is all the way from Germany. Wow, I know we are just going all over the world right now. And this is a fantastic performer. I have rarely been a fan, like a fanboy of someone right after watching, them perform. And in fact, to say that is also an exaggeration because the reality is when I saw him perform for the first time, I was his fan instantly within the first sentence that he spoke. And it is such an honor for me to have this personality on here on this show with me. And I'm not gonna, delay any of this. I'm simply gonna directly dive right into it. Please help me welcome all the way from Germany, the multilingual, perfect mentalist with the best blend of humor that I have ever seen in my entire life. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Jan Foster. Jan, how are you? Hi.
All right, I'm right. Nice, nice to meet you, and thanks for your compliments. I know that I have quite a lot of fans in India, and
Right.
I don't know why, because but I feel honored, to be honest.
Oh, that's absolutely my pleasure. And it's our good fortune that all of us are able to watch you right now. Okay, so Jan, let us dive right into it. Okay, so Jan, I'm going to ask you the first question. And my first question is a very broad question. It's going to have sub points to it. Okay, so
Okay,
here's
all
my
right.
so here's my broad topic. My first topic is humor. Okay, and within humor, I'm going to ask you my first sub point, okay, when it comes to you choosing your humor. Because there's no one, if there's anyone who has seen Jan Foster perform, you know for a fact you're going to die laughing throughout the show. And you're going to absolutely remember we loved watching his acts. His acts were mind blowing, but his humor really got to us, you know. And that's why I'm going to ask you my first point about the humor, which is subtlety. Jan, your humor has such great subtlety to it that you don't stand there cracking jokes. You say a line, you say something, and you just move on as if you said nothing. And you let the audience realize after a few seconds that what you just said was supposed to be a joke. And an example of that is you entered the stage and you said, I just flew in from this country and my arms are really tired, and and you just got along with the show, and the people realized that when you said I flew into US and my arms are really tired, you actually meant you flew in like Superman. So Jan, please tell us about your use of humor and especially about the subtlety of it.
Yeah, I believe that humor is a very, very important tool, and there are two aspects which I think are important. One is concerning the presentation, so keeping the attention of the audience on, and on the other hand, I use humor as a tool to create more impossible miracles. I will give you an example. Um, you can prove something by saying, and you see the envelope is empty and you signed it here, then it is just a logical argument. But if you combine it with a joke, then you have a second base to establish what you have said in the memory of your audience, because first they get the logical what you said behind. The second one is if you put a smile on their face or sometimes even a laugh, that means what you have said will stick longer in their memory.
Yeah.
So it is a sort of tool. It's if I make somebody sign, I can ask him, you signed it, and that means I cannot switch it. But I could say also, is this your real name? Yes, okay, then you are a honest person like me. So that puts a smile in your face and you establish what you want to say indirectly, but far stronger, instead of saying you sign it, and that makes it impossible to switch it. I never would say that because
Right.
it's obvious, but if I combine that with a joke or or a little gag, then it really sticks in the memory of the audience, because there is the logical aspect plus the emotional aspect, because you were smiling or laughing about it, and then it sticks in your memory. So basically, I think humor is very, very important presentation wise, because you keep the audience longer, you keep their attention, they enjoy what you do, plus you can use it also as a tool to create a simply far more impossible miracle, because it is a two-folded tool, I would say. And I do it on purpose. You know, I started as a magician, and I have done so. Basically, I was a manipulator. I did a manipulation act, and I was German champion in the 80s. It doesn't mind. So I know things like body language. I know all these tools and sleight of hand. I still use sometimes, but I hide it. But I always like also do talking magic, and it was always my goal. Already when I was 16, 17, I recognized already the power of, if you combine humor, not only in the aspect of presentation, but you also add humor as a very strong weapon or tool to fool your audience, because I know it really sticks in the memory of the audience far better if you deliver something, you prove something, but you don't do it flat. You just do it very subtle using the tool of humor. But I recognized very, very early when I started doing magic that humor is a very, very strong tool, not only concerning presentation, but also using as a weapon to construct a very strong routine, which you cannot backtrack, because you implant something easier in the memory and in the mind of your audience if you combine it with humor, because there is also the emotional aspect, that they smile or laugh about it, that sticks longer in your brain.
Right, right, right. Absolutely. Now, I want to speak to you about another subplot of humor, okay? Your humor, okay? And which is intelligence. Your humor is always so intelligent. It's not slapstick. I have found it to be not slapstick. Uh, Tell me about your approach towards using intelligent humor. Or is it a deliberate choice? I think it is. Uh,
Yes, it is.
yeah, yeah. So tell us about having intelligence in the humor.
You know, in the 90s, I've seen quite a lot of American stand-up comedians when I did a lot of cruising, mainly on American cruise liners. And I learned something what we call pace. It
Right,
means it means being quick, and I simply I simply don't like to wait until the last person in the audience got my punchline. I
right,
just flow about it, and I do it deliberately. Yes, because I don't want to say something and then to wait 2 or 3 seconds to get a reaction. In a certain way, I really enjoy that. I know that many people in the audience discover 2 or 3 seconds after I said something that there was something quite funny about it. And I think that humor is the most intelligent form of humor is if your audience discovers the punchline by themselves. So I really enjoy to say something, and sometimes even don't say the punchline, because they will discover by themselves. I know, of course, it means that the audience needs a higher level of attention, but I don't care, because I think this is intelligent. If you say something and probably you don't even say the punchline, you wait a fraction of a second, and then you look at the audience and you see, oh, they discover by themselves what you just said, or they finish the a joke or a gag by themselves mentally. And yes, I do that on purpose, and I think this even gives space, because I I just keep on talking, and I know that was funny, and I know it takes 2 3 seconds later everybody will got what I said. And yes, I do it on purpose, because I think it is far more intelligent than speaking out each punchline.
yes, yes. You do not go about explaining the punchline. You do not go about waiting for people to laugh. Or I've seen
No.
that, and it's like it is just so ballsy, and it's so courageous, and it shows the confidence the performer has in his material, and it shows in you as a performer. You know, it really affects your confidence in a really, really positive way. And it's like the moment we laugh at any of your jokes, we also develop respect for you. I develop respect for you because your humor is just so intelligent. So I'm sure that's what your audience must be telling you as well. Am I right?
Yes, there is probably a certain kind of audience which I don't don't really get, but I would say these are people, they are a bit less educated or intelligent, or they are too old. But I always say, to be frankly, I don't care, because if I get about 90%, and I know that I might lose a small percentage because I'm too quick, I'm too subtle, then I don't care. Because if I would take care about these, let's say 10%, it probably is even less, then I would change my style. But the way I perform, I am, even if my family knows me. If I'm in a private conversation, I'm the same, and I don't want to change my character on stage, because I think that I'm quite authentic. Because I can be very sarcastic even in these times. Sometimes I make jokes about Corona, because I know that humor helps a little bit to come over these times. And so by being authentic, I simply feel better. And this is why I'm not going to change my style. Take it, or I have not to please everyone, as I say, and take it or leave it. But the majority takes it. And you know, I'm performing in Germany, and the German audience, the younger German audience, is a bit different than the older people. So somehow through the internet, I think we all more or less assimilate. And but still, the German audience tend to be a bit cooler than, let's say, Americans or Italian audience. But it is like about between 30 and 40% when I perform in a German theater. At the end of my show, I get, by these cold German audience, I get a standing ovation. And normally it's not, probably it's not good if I talk about it, but I'm not waiting for it. And I'm not, I always say to myself, oh, don't expect it, it will happen tonight. And if it happens, I'm happy. And if it doesn't happen, I'm not unhappy. But it's about 30-40%, even older people stand up, and after 2 hours, they give me a standing ovation, because they just say, I don't have many props. It's just this guy on stage. He is smart, he is quick, and he fills the stage by his personality. And somehow after 2 hours, even the last or the most of the audience see, oh, that is really good what he does, and he's on his own. And so, yeah, frankly, this is one of the reasons why I certainly will always perform the way I perform today, and I don't want to change that.
Wow, wow, wow! Absolutely, wow! That's a stunning reply, and but not surprising, because that confidence also shows in your performance. Now, here's my next subplot when it comes to the broader aspect of humor, and I've kept it so broad because I think people misunderstand humor. They think humor means jokes. Okay,
Yeah.
they assume if I should add some humor, okay, let me read the books for punchlines, and let me just throw the lines, and that will make my show humorous. And I do not think that is the case, and hence it is so important to dissect this broader aspect. I hope I'm making sense to you.
Yeah, it makes. Of course, I have a lot of books about punchlines, one-liners, and so on. And I always read and write these books, but it's very seldom that I really take a punchline from them, because what I'm interested in is the construction of a joke or of a one-liner. And okay, I studied Latin and Greek, so ancient philosophy. So this is why I also talk some languages. So I know how language works.
Right, right.
I really, even grammar-wise and why it's funny. So if I read a punchline which I like, I never would take it the way I read it. I just look at the construction and say, oh yeah, it is funny, because it is funny off. And then I try to find a way so it might fit in one of my routines. So it is really even deconstructing the nature of punchlines or jokes or gags or one-liners, I try always to deconstruct it and to see it abstract, and then to use this abstract system I found in a completely different context. So yes, it is planned, and even sometimes I just say something that is funny, and then I keep note. And there is one joke I remember. It is, I think I said that in 1993, I was on stage on a cruise ship, and there was an English band in the back. And I just asked a lady if she believes in mind reading. And before she could answer, I said, I thought so. Do you believe in mind reading? I thought so. And the English guys behind me were cracking up. And the audience was laughing like hell. I said, okay, I said something funny. And then I was rethinking, said, yeah, basically it's funny because I asked her if she believes in mind reading. Before she can answer, I tell her I thought so, which is the proof that I could read already her mind without saying yes or no. And so it is like you have to observe yourself, because sometimes you say something funny, it works, and you just said it like that, and then just keep note, and then use it whenever you think it fits. So this is one thing. And even sometimes I listen to the audience, and even sometimes the audience will deliver a funny punchline to me. Somebody, I say something, because of course as a mentalist you're communicating all the time live to your audience, and you say something and you get a reaction from somebody in the audience who is funny, and you see he said something, the rest of the audience is laughing about it. So I record that and say, oh, he said this is quite funny. So how can I change that next time I will say it? And so this is yeah, I really study what I say. Even if you talk about scripting, yes, I script, but not all. The most important thing that I have always is very fixed scripting for the beginning of a routine and for the end. And in between, it is also scripted, but I have always far more pattern than I actually need. So sometimes my partner in life, she says to me, oh, you didn't say this and this tonight. I said, yeah, I don't know, because I didn't say, because I think it wouldn't have fit us. So it's I think it is good if you have more pattern to deliver than actually you can use, because then you work also a little bit out of your stomach. You go out, you look at your audience, you start. You never have the fear that you don't have enough pattern to come through. You know you have more than you need, minimum like 30-40% more pattern than you actually can deliver. And then you have the flow. Then I hope I don't forget this line, or so I don't care, because I simply have more pattern than I actually need.
Sure, absolutely. Now to the next subplot of this is not exactly humor, but more about spontaneity. This question is you are extremely spontaneous when it comes to your performance, but there are moments where you're also apparently spontaneous. If you know what I mean, where it's deliberate spontaneity, where
Yeah.
you create a situation, you have a punchline in your head, but you create a situation where the spectator behaves a certain way, and then you deliver the punchline. And an example of this is, I believe it was in your Penguin live act, where you asked the girl, pointing at a guy, do you know this guy? She said, no. You said, we will change that.
Yeah.
So I love that line, and I love the way you delivered it. And it struck to me as a performer that it was an apparently spontaneous moment, but it was apparent, I believe. You created that situation to say that, and hence it did not come across as a script, as a scripted line. So tell me about that approach. How do we create more spontaneity and apparent spontaneity as well?
I think it looks only like that because I know exactly when I say that. So it's actually planned, because I know that the answer will be no. And then I will say, okay, well, we're going to change that. It is really planned, because I know that she will say no.
Mm-hmm.
And then it looks like that I react on her, but the audience doesn't realize that I point to somebody where I'm almost 100% sure she does not know this guy.
Right.
And this again is yeah, it makes the people laugh, because then the audience thinks, what does he mean with it? So Jan tries to connect these two people. Maybe then they go for dinner together. So it is funny what happens in the audience, in the brain of the audience. But actually, in this case, I just want to put some attention on somebody in the audience who will play a smaller role later on, because he will sit on an envelope and I will never come back to the envelope, but I will give her a reason to write clearly that this guy later is able to read what she wrote. So it is in preparation of that. So it comes like a joke, but actually I introduce this person into this routine because I need him later. And as she knows him, it gives her a reason to do something in order that he can use it later. So it is actually, yeah, it sounds spontaneous, but it is absolutely planned. So it is again this strategy that I create a minor book about it, but it is twofolded because it is also part of my strategy. Because if I introduce this guy to her with a joke, and then I later tell her, please write so that he will be able to read what you wrote, then she knows him already and he knows her. And so these two people are connected.
Right.
And it sounds more logical to tell her how she should do something. But again, so it is part of the construction and planning of a routine, and I just deliver it as a joke. So it sounds spontaneous, and then everything what follows seems to be very logical, even if it is not. As I always say, it is not important that it is logical. It has in the moment only sound to be logical. If you eat it because it sounds logical, I'm fine. Not everything has to be really logical, because I don't get the audience to ask, oh, does this really make sense? It sounds logical in the moment, and before they really can start to think about it, if it is indeed logical, what I want or said, the train is already gone.
Right. Absolutely. My next question is about when it comes to logical. When you were mentioning about logical, have you heard of Edward de Bono? Edward de
Yeah.
Bono? Yeah.
Yeah.
He created a thinking process called the lateral thinking process, right? So
Yeah.
he says that there are two kinds of thinking. One is logical thinking, when the other one is lateral thinking. Logical thinking is where you go straight in line. In lateral, you can literally go like this or like that or whatever. It's non-linear thinking, basically. When it comes to your lines, your humor, the spontaneity, there's one thing common. There is unpredictability in all of those. Okay, all of those. The punchline is unpredictable. What I've observed about your performance is that when you're saying something, each sentence that you say can be divided into two parts. Okay, for me, part one of your sentence is something simple, where they have no idea what this is about. They think you're speaking about something normal. Part two is your actual punchline, which is extremely unpredictable, and we could never guess what the second half of your sentence is going to be. And that's what lateral thinking talks about. So tell me about that. Tell us about your approach towards, because I believe that this is also a deliberate moment where the first half of your sentence is generally something simple, like something very disarming, and the second half of your sentences is what gives the punch. So how do you go about doing that?
It is. I think it is quite simple, because I like to listen to jokes, gags, or one-liners, and if I find a one-liner or a joke or a gag where I personally get the feeling that I know already after the first half sentence what the punchline will be, this I sort out, because I think there is no surprise anymore.
Right.
So if somebody says, I know, then it is just, again, deconstructing the nature of language. So a simple one-liner where after half the sentence, I know already the punchline, I simply don't use because there is no surprise.
Right.
Of course, sometimes I might be wrong. There are also, I tried even some one-liners. I tried them one time and they were out. But most of the time, I go from my own person. And if I invent something or I hear something or I read something, which I always modify, but I get the feeling that I know already what's coming next, then I simply don't use it because there is no surprise. Then, as I say, it is so flat that I won't use it.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
it is a selection. So by my own taste. So if somebody really surprises me, I think, oh, this is funny because I didn't see that coming. Then
Oh,
I find it's good.
and and to wrap this up, this not the interview, but to wrap up the section of humor right now. I know for a fact that everyone who is watching this right now, who will be watching this, they would listen to all of these points that you just mentioned, and they'll be curious to know. Oh my God! So let us watch more of Jan's videos and performances, and let us
Yeah.
copy the lines. Let us take the lines. Let us use the line. I want to discourage that. I do not want to encourage that. And for that, I would like to wrap it up by throwing this one last question to end this section of humor is how does a performer go about writing his own punchlines using all of these techniques we learned? How does someone go about? Because I want to inspire our viewers. I want them to get inspired by you, but not copy you. That's not the idea for this interview
Yeah.
over here. Okay? Please do not copy Jan's line. I personally request you. They're brilliant. Honor them by getting inspired and writing your own lines. So, Jan, over to you about the writing process.
The writing process is the first step I always say is you have to observe yourself. Try to see yourself with a bird's eye. How do I react in public? How I talk to friends, to my family? You have to ask yourself if I am funny or not. Don't try to change your personality. Not everybody can be funny. Not everybody can be a machine gun when talking. And observe yourself. So what is your strengths? Because each human being got a sense of humor. What you laugh about what? Uh, if I am funny, yes, okay, why I am funny? So that you really try to discover your own personality, and then you will create something what really fits to your personality, and then you achieve this goal, which in my opinion is the most important goal as a performer, being authentic. It is really you, because people love people, they don't love dummies. So they have to be interested in you. And then I think if you really discover yourself, your own personality, your strengths, then you can create your own lines, your own sense of humor. You even can use lines you find, but you will modify them in a way that they really belong to you. It becomes part of you. Because the worst thing is if in the audience somebody gets the feeling, oh, this guy just learned a lot of one-liners and just shouting them out. That does not impress the people. And I think the most important thing is, even if everything you do, or almost you do, is scripted, it never should sound like it is scripted. It should sound like you just go on stage and you are just such a great talker that you just talk and it's good, and not like, oh, he learned it and now he's just reproducing what he learned, and it sounds terrible. So it's even when you are scripting, sometimes it is better. I discover that I script something and I sit at my laptop or so and I write something that I stand up and say, no, never would talk like that. And then I just wander around in one. I have two studios here, and I just wander around and talk aloud to myself. Then I go back to the laptop and say, this is the way. This is the way I talk. This is the way I write, and this is the way I talk. And then I think everybody can do it. It is quite a lot of work, but it is, at the end, it is very satisfying if you have something that is really you. And I think almost everyone can get to this point, being successful at that. Of course, I have to admit, not everybody is able to be a good performer. This is unfortunately the truth, because I studied like 8 years piano, and I know people, they are fantastic playing the piano, but if they're on their own, maybe if 1-2 persons are listening to it, they still play well. But as soon as they have like 10-20 spectators they listen to when he plays the piano, it doesn't work anymore. It's always, in my opinion, a small point, which is probably you cannot learn. You have it or you don't have it. It is really true. It's people, they never like to talk in front of other people, and they're always shy, and they don't can overcome that. But I think even this is not really bad, because we also need, in our field of magic and mentalism, we need also people, they create or think, invent something, even if they are not great performers. I have so many books and fantastic things I have read in the books, and sometimes I saw a performer and then I was quite disappointed, because his books are so good, so deep thinking and good ideas, and when you see him as a performer, I said, no, I saw, okay. But I think it doesn't matter, because we do not need only performers. We need also people that think, they invent, they stimulate us, and that as long as we have people that stick to our art, I think there is a place for everyone in the art. Not everyone has to go on stage, and if you discover for yourself, probably it's better I'm an inventor, then so what? Then you are an inventor. There is place for everyone. This is my opinion.
Wow, 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 absolutely. And all the viewers, I urge you all, be inspired by everything that Jan has very, very givingly, very generously shared with all of us. And you can write your own lines, and I think there's a certain sense of pride when you're delivering, a show that's come from you. It's all you. Am I right?
Yeah, it's true.
Right? All right. And now I have seen you have a very unique approach when it comes to dealing with your spectators. And it's a blend of two things. Okay. And I'm going to bring in both of them to you. I've observed it. Okay. I've made notes to ask you questions. Okay. So, question number one, when it comes to dealing with your spectators, I have seen that you give them absolute emphasis. You give an absolute emphasis on giving them clear instructions. I've seen that you make sure that they understand, they get it. What is it that you want to do, and what is it that you do not want them to do? And I've seen you have. I'm sure you have saved massive screw ups simply because of this trait of yours. Tell us about that. You giving clear instructions to your audience.
Yeah, I knew that from the very beginning when I started into mentalism, also influenced by people like Ted Leslie, because we have been good friends. And he always said to me, you have to make it very clear. He was also against mixing two sorts of effects, because he said it is getting confusing. And if you read about it, and you can read a lot about it, even Divernon said magic is not confusing.
No, no.
Or confusing is not magic. It is really true. And there are certain lines when I do scripting, and I know it is crucial, it is important that my participant or the spectator does exactly what I want. It is always, when you watch my videos, a certain point, then I'm not funny anymore. I even speak a bit louder, and I look at
That was
somebody.
the second part of my question.
Yeah,
But I
okay.
said it's a blend of
Okay.
two things. I was gonna
So
say.
yes, but this is really done on purpose. I know that you have to give them very clear instructions, and what I say, for example, if I have something new, I try on my family, on my daughters, on my wife, and I don't do the routine. I just give them an envelope, I put it on the table, I say, please pick up the envelope and take out what's in it. And then I just observe them how they do. And then I see what can happen. And I say, okay, I have to make sure that. So it is sometimes you are just refining 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then I discover what could go wrong, and then
Right.
I have to make sure by acting what happens and what I say to make sure that absolutely this will happen what I want and not a different way.
Right.
And
Right.
this is,
Right.
yeah, that's very important. It is always something you have to have in your mind
Yeah.
when you plan and construct a routine.
It's like the Murphy's law, right? Where what can go wrong will go wrong,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It is my
So-
law. So,
okay.
but you had a second question. So this is why I stopped here because,
yeah, yeah. So my second question is that I've observed about you is while you're the nicest guy in your show, while you're being the nicest person in the world to them, but when you're giving instructions, when you're dealing with your spectators, you have some amount of moderate intimidation. Okay, I've seen that you at some point you do become this larger than life person who's slightly, just enough intimidating to the other person for them to not act smart or do anything like that. You actually go about and say, yeah, no, look at me, I'm saying something, look at me, look good, yeah, do that. Okay, you get it? I've seen you do that, and I can see that's a very, very well thought out action, and perfectly blended. You don't come across as way too strong, and you don't come across as way too someone to be alienated, but intimidating enough for them to not act funny or smart assy. Or tell us about that.
yes, yeah, it is really done on purpose. I know that. And I know that I change tone, I change face expression, and because there is a difference between I was acting and speaking and looking before, and now I say something. I know by experience that my participant realized that because he's close to me, he sees there is a change, and now for a moment I'm serious, and I really want that he wants to do what I'm telling him he should do, and it simply works. I think it works even better if you are commanding all the time. We do this, do this, do this, do this. People probably won't follow you. But if you are a nice person and approachable and you're polite and you make jokes, but at a certain point you just switch. And of course, only probably for a couple of seconds. This moment, your spectator really realizes that you are serious now about it, and he will follow you because he liked you before and he thinks you are funny, and now you turn for a moment seriously and you change tone. I even sometimes talk a bit louder or a bit slower and look at him, and there's no smile in my face, and I know that it helps a lot making sure that he or she will do what I want that he or she does. It really works. This is the contrast between like you were behaving before and after they have done what you do. You can even turn back the way you were before, and I think it is really important, and even it draws more attention to that, and I make sure that my sentences are clear, that they really understand what I want them to do, and I think it is really important because then there is no place for a joke or for one liner. You have to be very clear, and once it is done, of course you can relax again, and because it is my show, and it even gives the people the feeling this guy really knows what he does. He is not a beginner. He comes on stage, he has self-confidence, and then the people follow you. And again, I say it is not by accident. I do it on purpose.
Right. And I'm sure it's not by accident, and that's why I ended up asking you that question because I knew that you would have the answer to that. Okay, my almost final question to you is, okay, it's yeah. So about your acts, I have seen that the plots of your acts are very, very simple. It's very easy to follow plot. Uh, that is, I guess, I believe, also done deliberately, because when everything is so deliberate, why would your plots not be deliberately chosen? So tell us about the simplicity of your plots, and why should we have simple plots, and how do you go about doing it? Tell us about that.
Yeah, simplicity is again what I learned, even partly from Ted Leslie, is that you don't mix like mind reading and then at the end I have a prediction. Besides that, if I know what will happen, then the mind reading I did before doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Then people say, "Oh, that was no mind reading because he knew before what will happen." So I always try to avoid mixing plots.
Right.
So I have one plot is mind reading, one is influencing, one is the next one is maybe a prediction, but it is not a real prediction because I just observe people and I get a feeling what will happen or influencing chance. So I always try to have only one plot, and by not mixing more than one plot, one theme, it is far easier for the audience to follow. Because my goal is if you ask the spectator, what did he do? And they say, oh, first, then he had like a deck of playing cards, and then I had to choose a card, and he had a prediction, but before he tried to influence me, and then he read my, then you know already that if you can not tell what you have seen in more or less one sentence, maybe two sentences, then obviously what the spectator was watching was confusing. So, but if it's a clear plot and somebody can say, no, I was thinking of, and he told me straight away, I was thinking of that. This is clear. It's a clear answer.
Yeah.
And one very important thing is what I almost always do is that I introduce the plot. So I tell the people before we start where we go. So they got an idea, because then they are interested in following you. But if you tell them, okay, we make a little experiment, please come over here, then they say, okay, what kind of experiment? But if I tell them where we go, what I'm going to show,
Right.
then what I even don't like, if you talk, I just have one routine. I talk a lot before I start, but it is a story about my grandmother. It is almost a true story, and it's a funny story. So, but it leads to the plot. But except this one routine, normally I introduce the plot, but I don't overdo it, because you can talk 5 minutes about a plot and nothing is happening. I don't like that either. So, but to make it clear, what I'm going to show you next is quite interesting one, and it might be 1 minute, maybe one and a half minute. You introduce the plot, you explain the plot, and then you start. But it is always normally only one plot. This is why it is easy to follow the routines. It is very clear, and you can tell what you have seen or experienced in 1-2 sentences. And this is always my goal, because I don't want to confuse the people.
That was brilliant, and that was really some deep insight that you've shared with us over here. And thank you for doing this, and thank you for agreeing to do this interview.
The questions were excellent. Actually, you asked me things I love to talk about. So you did not. I think I have to tell all the listeners to your radio interview. As a matter of fact, nothing was preset. I did not know before which questions you will ask, and the questions were superb. And I think you could see by my answers that your questions actually were pointing to the things I think all the time about it. So it was a pleasure to answer these questions, because actually this is what I'm thinking about. And so even there was nothing set up. I really have to say it again. So
Right.
it really showcased that the quality of your questions were simply great. I thank you also, because you gave me the possibility to talk about something I really like. I love to talk about, and your question was simply great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'm Jan Forster. Zoom into magic with Akshay.